Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. It's disappointing, guys. Roma score in the 90th minute against Napoli, and that's our title hopes. That's our title hopes gone, guys. I'll be straight up honest with you guys. Yeah. This team had such a great start of the season. 8 games, win in a row. Then we had a draw against Roma. And to be honest, since November, this team has shown some weaknesses, physically, mentally, and Spalletti's weaknesses started to show. He cracks under pressure, and obviously that's not something that you have in the first 10 or so games of the season. And then, when it's squeaky bum time and you've got to make brave decisions time and time again, Spalletti has messed it up, and he's messed it up once again today. Let's go straight to the player. Let's go straight to the player ratings, guys, because we need to speak about this, right? We need to speak about the fact that we had Lozano playing an incredible game today. He was purposeful, gave the Roma defenders all sorts of problems, and he gets taken away quite early on in the second half because he's on a yellow card, and Spalletti doesn't want to risk maybe him getting a second yellow. But the players that come to replace people like Lobotka, who then went out injured, people that came to replace Lozano, even players that came to replace Insigne, who wasn't having an incredible game, but he was having an average game, they came on and gave absolutely nothing. Just the intensity of the subs wasn't there. And I think that's on Spalletti to get them to the same intensity as the starting 11. You've got to hype them up. You've got to make sure that they're good to go. And the subs weren't there. Then, in the last 10 minutes, I think it was the 84th minute, something like that, Juan Jesus came on. And so that's 6 minutes of normal time, and you're going to have a lot of extra time. The ref gave 8 minutes, but he's going to give at least 5, right? So you're going to play 10 to 15 minutes with Juan Jesus on, and it's not the problem. Juan Jesus is not the problem. The problem is you go into a back 5, and you keep players like Zielinski, who intensity 0. You keep players like Anguissa, who honestly, guys, has not been the same since November. He's lost all sort of intensity as well in his game. So you've got a midfield of Anguissa, Elmas, Demme, who's basically not played at all this year, and Zielinski. You got these 4 guys who are amoebas coming to the end of this game, and none of them provide any width. So you're exposing Mauro Rui and Zanoli on the flanks to be doubled up, right? And that's exactly how Napoli concede the goal. I mean, we can go straight into it with the analysis. So, I mean, let's start from the Roma second goal. We usually go chronological order, but let's start on the 89th minute. This is how Napoli were set up. Ignore what's happening with the ball. Just look at how Napoli is set up. All right, we've got 5 at the back, and Zanoli here on the far right. You can see he needs to sort of make a decision. He's got one player right in front of him that he knows could be dangerous if he starts moving towards the box, but behind him he's also got El Shaarawy. Now, Anguissa is in no man's land. completely in no man's land. He needs to be providing backup for Zanoli, because Zanoli's going to make a decision on obviously marking the guy that's closest to goal, leaving the other guy exposed. And Anguissa just doesn't have the legs to double up. And, you know, we're playing with Zielinski and Demme in the middle, who provide no barrier, because Zielinski, I don't know what's happened to him this year, and he's never been a defensive player. And Demme, he's just not playing. So we don't have a dam at all. So anyways, the ball gets played out. You know, Roma continue to pass the ball around, and you can see that Zanoli then has to make a decision. He has to, you know, mark one of the guys that is getting closer to him, you know, and this leaves El Shaarawy completely free on the flank. We have a lot of people in the middle, but no one's really useful over there, because the real threat is coming from El Shaarawy. Roma move the ball wide. They get closer to the box. They cross it in, and you can see Anguissa is in no man's land. You know, he actually had the choice of maybe marking two players here, number 11 and El Shaarawy. He doesn't get to either of those. In the span of 30 seconds, Anguissa covers just literally no ground and is just in no man's land the whole time. So that's you know, a problem that I think, you know, obviously it's Anguissa's problem, but it's a problem that Spalletti should have seen coming. Instead, if we kept the original formation and we defend in a 4-4-2, then you've got the right back, and then you've got a dedicated right winger as well that are occupying that right hand side for Napoli, which means that when the right back has to shift towards the center of the box, at least there's a right back, a right wing that could potentially, you know, cover him. But we had no cover, because we were playing a 5-3-2. We had no cover on the sides, and Roma were exploiting that time and time again in the last 10-15 minutes. Honestly, guys, they could have scored another 2 or 3 times like this if they wanted to. You know, they could have redone this 2 minutes later and probably scored again, because just tactically this wasn't working for Napoli. And guys, I mean, we let El Shaarawy score. This guy's been finished since 2015, and you know, talk about resuscitating Egyptian mummies, right? Like, this guy is done, finished, and we let him score. So yeah, disappointing. And this is on Spalletti. Spalletti thought he was going more defensive, thought he was, you know, doing some great bit of coaching. Instead, the players came on without intensity, and tactically it was off, completely off. So that's the situation. Let's see some of the comments. Lawrence is saying, I don't think the goal was Zanoli's fault. Yeah, me neither. He had to cover who he had to cover in the middle. It was a mixture of Spalletti's tactics, Anguissa's laziness, and Juan Jesus losing his man, which left the other defenders for him to cover. Yeah, that's also a huge part of it. Roma just wanted to injure Napoli players like the Atletico Madrid, says Nietzsche. Yeah, that was a big part of the game, especially in the first half. Some really bad fouls, which we'll go over. Fabrizio, ciao Fabrizio. Hi, not a good draw. We have to play better. When Lobotka goes out for injury, we haven't played well. What do you think? Yeah, I think when Lobotka was out injured, Spalletti didn't have a plan B. Unfortunately, so much of Napoli's play depends on Lobotka, and you take him off, and Zielinski, Fabian in the middle this season hasn't really worked for us. It really hasn't. And yeah, we then put Elmas as well, and Elmas we put him in the classic situation where it's not really his position, right? We play him in these very random positions, and then we change formation, and he has to adapt as well. We never really give him something to work with. So yeah, just disappointing. Everybody just seemed out of position. Everybody just seemed completely off. It's incredible. It's incredible. Manaz Anguissa played 90 minutes here. Demme should have covered for him. Yeah, Demme, Zielinski, Anguissa. The problem is that they're all three playing in the center, but actually we needed people on the flanks, and we didn't have that. Jude Thomas is saying Spalletti is not a good coach. Why did he remove Victor Osimhen? That was causing Roma defenders problems. That's a very good point. I'm pained as a Nigerian because I want Napoli to win the league. Yeah, that's another huge point from Jude. So, Spalletti, not only did he put a 5-3-2 or 5-4-1 or whatever you want to call it, but he removed Victor Osimhen, who he didn't have a good game, Victor Osimhen, but at least it's a potential threat to Roma, especially in the last few seconds of the game, in the last few minutes of the game. He's always going to be a threat in counterattacks, and it just gives the wrong signal to Napoli players, and it gives the wrong signal just to everyone, that Napoli is just going to sit here and defend. And the crazy thing about it, guys, is that Spalletti has time and time again said in press conferences that Napoli is not a team that likes to defend. Napoli is a team that likes to keep the ball. Napoli is a team that needs to attack. Napoli is a team that needs to have possession, right? So when you are saying out loud that we are not a team that should be defending, but then on the other hand, you've got 15 minutes left of the game and you're telling your team to defend, you're automatically causing panic mode in your team, because you're telling them to do something which you publicly said we're not good at. And the Roma players know it, and the Roma players could only gain more confidence out of that. Also, this whole week, right, we've been talking about Mertens on social media, in the newspapers. I was almost certain Mertens was going to start today. I was almost certain we were going to have Mertens and Osimhen start. Because honestly, guys, what we saw last week against Fiorentina, Mertens, Osimhen in the second half, really worked for Napoli. It made Osimhen play better. Mertens played really well. He seems to be in form. And not only does he not start, but then he also only plays the last 5 minutes. That's not how to treat Dries Mertens. That's not even on a personal level. Like, forget the personal. Forget Mertens should be having more respect. Forget that. We don't really, football's not about that. But just from a purely sporting sense, why would you not play Mertens? Why would you keep someone like that on the bench? Someone who scored 150 plus goals for Napoli, and it's not history. The guy scored last week. The guy scored 6 days ago. And a really good goal as well. The guy keeps scoring. Every time you play him, he scores. He's not done. He's effective. He makes people play better. He makes the crowd He makes the crowd be more loud. Everything. It works having Mertens on the field, and then you only play him for 5 minutes. It just, honestly, I don't know. I don't understand Spalletti today. That's why, for me, Spalletti gets a 3 out of 10. He doesn't get a 0 because I think, in the first, at the end of the day, Roma scored in the 90th minute. So for 90 minutes, we had the 3 points almost guaranteed. So, you can't be too harsh. We didn't get humiliated by Roma. It's still a draw. But we gifted them the last 15-20 minutes, right? And it's incredible how this is time and time again. And I tweeted also how this happened with Spalletti in Inter Juve 2018. Inter are winning 2-1. Spalletti in the 87th minute takes off Mauro Icardi, and Juve scored 2 goals and ends the title hopes for Napoli, who obviously were hoping that Juventus would lose that game, right? So for the second time in a row, Spalletti has made horrible substitutions at the end of the game and screwed us over. And honestly, Both times they've been defensive-minded substitutions. Both times, they've been proven to be the wrong call, and he's just cracking under pressure, and that's just that's just who he is at this point. Which is disappointing because the start of the season, I thought he was brave with some of his substitutions at the start of the season, but now it's just he went in total chaos, and it just doesn't work. Napoli was lucky we didn't lose. Roma deserved to win, says Francisco. Yeah. I don't think Roma deserved to win. I think at the end of the day they scored in the 90th minute, but I think if you were to play an extra 10 minutes, then Roma seemed the more likely team to score. ID says it's extremely disappointing, man. Spalletti will never win us any trophies. Only want him for one more season for stability, but we move on after that with better squad due to Champions League money. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not asking Spalletti to leave. I think he still had an overall decent season. But this is the limit that we have. This is a coach with his limits. Other coaches have different limits. And we've just got to next year try to be in a situation where our whole our games don't depend on having to try to keep a 1-0 advantage up. We need to be in situations where maybe we're 2 or 3 goals up, and then that way it removes that element of risk from the game, and a lot of that has to do with some players leaving and getting players that are more motivated. There's some players that have lost a bit of motivation. Maybe players like Zielinski, who's been here for so many years. Is he still motivated to play well for Napoli? Is it time to think about what we do with Zielinski? Because this year he's been really bad. Insigne is leaving, so we're gonna have maybe Kvara replacing him. We need that kind of energy, new players. So maybe next year might be different. Maybe next year, because I think a lot of our issues has been motivation. Anthony Giampolo says he scores damn near every game he plays for us. I don't know who he's talking about. Manas is saying Spalletti is talking BS. How many times have we won by 2+ goals? Not many, because we fall deep defensively and shoot long balls to Osimhen every time we the lead. Yeah, I spoke about this in previous lives. We've not really had that many games where we've won 2 or 3-0 or by 2 goals. We had a few at the start of the season, your 4-0s against Udinese and all these guys. But really since then, it's been tough. It's been tough. It's been, Osimhen saving the day, whether that be a goal against Torino, whether that be a goal against Venezia, a goal against Cagliari at the end. It's always been just one goal, and that's it, right? There's never been a game this season recently where we're just comfortable. It's just not happened. Marks14 is saying Spalletti, clown, Forza Roma. Yeah, I mean, Spalletti didn't have the best experience at Roma, so I'm sure Roma fans are happy with that. But at the same time, guys, if you're a Roma fan, obviously you're welcome on the show if you behave. But you've had a pretty useless season so far in Italy, and you might get a trophy in the Conference League. So congrats. That's a huge achievement. It's a big upgrade from your usual bonsai trees from preseason. So congrats. But we're having a big boy discussion now. We're talking about teams that are challenging for the title. So maybe next year I'll have a bit more time for you in the discussion. But yeah, I mean, you're welcome to keep listening in. Anthony Navarro is saying, Dom, you're saying everything I said earlier today. It's discussing how tight our minds are. Yep, I mean, I think this is what all Napoli fans are feeling. It doesn't take me, like, I'm not a genius here, that I'm not discovering something completely new. I think we all see that we lacked something from Spalletti. We all saw that the subs came with zero intensity. I'm just voicing out your your thoughts as well. But I think we can all see those things, right? So yeah. Some of you liked my dissing of that Roma guy. Yeah, I can be a bit savage at times. Paulo is saying Demme was better than Anguissa for me. Yeah, I mean, Demme didn't have... I still want him to give a bit more. I still, in my mind, I still have the Demme from last year. The Demme from, prime when he came to save us. When Gattuso first came in, that early 2020 Demme. He's really gone downhill from there. Let's see some of the earlier comments. Let's see. Max is saying most of Spalletti subs made no sense today. Yeah, I think that's true. I didn't understand any of them, to be honest. They all came on at the wrong time, and the formations were all off. So yeah. Anthony Navarro is saying Napoli players are better than AC Milan players, but the difference is Pioli is better than Spalletti. Yeah, I don't see Pioli making these last minute strange substitutions, honestly. So yeah, I just don't see it, So maybe you're right. Maybe Pioli is a better manager. Maybe he is able to keep a bit more calm, level-headed, or is able to keep himself more calm and level-headed. And we're seeing how, there's a reason why they are still in the fight for the league and we're not. So yeah. Gotta love passive aggressiveness, says Maximus1318. Yeah. IDV, it's murder on my screen. Yeah, I sent that guy back to his bonsai tree collection. Anyways, so let's move on. So let's start with the analysis, right? Let's go over the game. Let's go over the game because I think some people might need some context if you missed the game or refresher about what happened, right? So you've got Lozano here who gives us the first penalty, the only penalty. This is a clear foul. Yeah, this is incredible how this is incredible. You've got the linesman that it has a clear view of this incident, very clear. There's no one obstructing the linesman. The ref is just off your screen at the edge of the D of the box. No one obstructing his view. Very clear. After 2 minutes, he finally goes to check VAR, and he takes maybe 50 views at this. They had to replay this about 20 times in like 3 different angles. I don't understand how... What was he trying to see? What was he trying to see that wasn't clear from the very first time you saw it? This is a clear penalty. It should be, okay, you might have missed it in real life. Sure, maybe you blinked. I'll give you that. Maybe you blinked. So you go, you check VAR, but it should just be one replay, boom, foul, penalty. Why do refs feel the need to try to see if there wasn't a penalty? Like, this is so clear. It's so clear that it's a penalty. It's incredible. Anyways, he finally gives it, and Insigne scores. Everybody's happy. Insigne gets his millionth penalty of the season to boost his stats, which are otherwise, like Insigne stats would be as bad as, I don't know. I'm done dissing people. But they're just bad. And then, they had Roma throughout that whole game, I think, had a mission to injure people. And they were super aggressive. And, you could see it from this foul on Lobotka. Just a really late tackle. For me, this is like an orange card. This is a really bad tackle. And, they did this with Lobotka. They did it with Anguissa. And, yeah, I mean, Roma's midfield was really, really going at it. But Lobotka is such an instrumental player for Napoli, and that's why they were doing it. And this is an example. You've got Cristante on Lobotka right before the foul that actually we were just looking at, and he's able to pick out a pass through the Roma midfield. And Roma were actually quite separated. Like they had their midfield and then their defense completely on the other side. They weren't moving as a block, so there was space in the middle for Napoli to exploit, which Insigne was doing quite well to exploit. But Insigne here, I think he actually picks out the wrong pass. We keep sending Osimhen down the flank. So Insigne puts the pass between the two defenders that are close to each other, and it sends Osimhen down towards the corner flag. I think Insigne could have actually done a straight pass and tried to put Osimhen more clearly through on goal. So yeah, I think Osimhen would have had the pace to beat his man. I think he could have done a dummy run towards his right and then move to the left, and Insigne, go straight with his pass. But we keep rushing it. As soon as we get the ball, we want to first time give it to Osimhen. And it's like sometimes it's not about giving Osimhen, it's not just about giving Osimhen the pass. It's not just about the easy pass. You got to think about, okay, if I give him this pass, what happens next? And a lot of the time that answer is he's off in the corner flag, which is that what you really want? So sometimes it's better to get the pass, maybe hold on to it for half a second, let Osimhen make a fake run to the outside and then cut inside and leave the defender, having to, psych the defender out. And then you've got a pass potentially where he can go through on goal. But we keep sending him wide. That's something I don't understand. I see teams like, if you watch, I don't know, your Bayern Munich, whatever, any of the top teams, they are able to just pass the ball so nicely, just straight down the middle for their strikers, because they play vertical, they play fast, but they actually wait that extra half a second at times before the final pass to allow the striker to readjust his run. Whereas we rush it. We have this anxiety to just give him the ball immediately, which I think is wrong. So, yeah. SJ saying, I flew to Napoli this morning and therefore went to the game. All I can say is that the game seemed to drastically change when Lobotka went off injured. We became negative and let Roma take control. Oh man, I'm disappointed that you saw that you went to see Napoli and they didn't win. Obviously, it's great that you did go see Napoli. But yeah, I mean, Lobotka leaving is huge. I mean, we can see how instrumental he is in actually starting off Napoli's attacks a lot of the time. And Spalletti didn't seem to have a plan B without Lobotka. Lozano had a good game, challenged the goalkeeper several times, got into good positions, challenged the defenders. Koulibaly had a massive game. I mean, this is him one-on-one against Zaniolo, who's one of the best, I think, players in the Serie A. And the way he just pushes him out of the box and then wins the ball was incredible. He got a yellow card for this, which I will never understand in my life, how this can be a yellow card. It doesn't matter what he did in the follow-through. He won the ball fair and square. The person coming towards Koulibaly is putting himself in unnecessary risk, even, continuing his run at that point. You should expect a follow-through foul after that, like you're so late, like of course you might get injured, right? Because Koulibaly is right now thinking of clearing the ball and standing back up, and of course his leg's not still going to be in that downwards position when he's trying to, stand back up. So yeah, people that say his foot was up is just stupid, honestly. They've never played football. If people who tell you that Koulibaly deserved a yellow card for this have probably never did a slide tackle in their life, or like think that you just slide and then you never get back up. Like Koulibaly slid, and then you have to get back up, and it's in that motion that he caught Zelewski or whatever his name is, and yeah, it's just ridiculous that he got a yellow card for that. Vincenzo Bertillo, thank you for the $13.99 Canadian dollar donation. I really appreciate that. It says Spalletti improved our defense but worsened our attack, which was on fire last season. 100% agree with you there. With him being our leader and Meret starting next season, Champions League qualification is our ceiling. So I don't know. I think Meret had a good game today. I think we're a bit harsh on Meret sometimes. He's definitely not as good as Ospina. I don't think. I think Meret, if he can build confidence, he can be a really good goalkeeper because I've seen it. It's not being hopeful. Like, I've seen Meret be a really good goalkeeper. Just think of his first 6 months at Napoli when we were still with Ancelotti. Meret was really good in those 6 months. No one had any problems with him. So I've seen that. It's just he's lost confidence. He's lost, obviously, rhythm. But if he can, start the season well next year and not have his spot challenged, maybe he can go off and have a really good season. So I'm not... Obviously, I'd rather have Ospina, but I'm not super worried about the whole Meret situation. The problem is that we do need to fix our attack. Now, a lot of that is down to Spalletti, because all of our attackers have done worse this season, except maybe Osimhen, who's technically played a little more this season than last season. But, all our wingers did worse. But a lot of that is personal reasons. Insigne leaving. Politano probably still depressed that he didn't get into the World Cup squad or the Euro squad. And, that was his motivating factor last season. Last season he was playing so well because he wanted to win a spot for the Euros. Now, he lost that spot. The team went off to win the Euros. He knows he started the season knowing that he missed something that happens once in a lifetime. So he started the season depressed, pretty much, probably. And then now Italy's not even in the World Cup. So, this guy's got no reason to play well, right? I mean, a lot of these guys are motivated by things outside of Napoli, whether that be a big money move away from the club or getting, into the national team or whatever. I'm sure Politano was motivated by that last season. Lozano, he had his own personal injuries pre-season, and also, he's not been that smart with the media, and so he's got a lot of backlash from the fans. So there's a lot of things that were outside of Spalletti's control this season. So yes, it is partly down to him, but also partly down to the players. Maybe next season, he can get players that he actually wants. I mean, Spalletti didn't buy anyone, guys. We bought Juan Jesus and Anguissa for free. Spalletti next season, he has the ability with Champions League football to actually go out and buy players that he wants, make his team. And maybe that starts with people like Kvara, Matias Oliveira. That can change the way Napoli attack. So, I think it's a bit unfair also to judge Spalletti this season. I think he's doing the best that he can with the material he's got. Obviously, he's then made some huge mistakes when it comes to substitutions, but we can't. It's not fair to judge him either, because he's playing with someone else's toy at the moment. So yeah, Giorgio saying bring Gattuso ball back. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Thing is, we're not even that much better off than last season, so maybe George has a point. Before this game, we were only 3 points more than what we were last season at this stage of the season. So, Gattuso, as much as we criticized him last season and we were nowhere near a title fight, actually, the only reason why we're in a title fight at the moment is because Inter's 12 points below what they were last season. Otherwise, this would have been, done and dusted already if we had last year's Inter this season. But Inter lost people like Lukaku, Hakimi, Eriksen, all those guys, right? So they're not as good. So it's not us that necessarily got better. It's just Inter got worse, and that's why we're in a title fight. Gaetano 2 goals today. He needs to be in next season, says Johnny Depp. Yeah, I'm sure Gaetano could do something for us next season. I mean, I'm a big fan of Gaetano. I'm a big fan of some of the players that Napoli have in the youth system. Let's call it like that. It's not really youth anymore with Gaetano, but I'm a big fan of just giving them more chances. So let's see what they can do. Roma were dangerous in the first half with this, but that was about it. Just a cross that hit the crossbar. I just want to highlight this action here where Roma managed to get a shot across and Meret saved it. He's always really good with saves like these, like reaction saves. But we need to highlight how Zaniolo defends crosses. We spoke about it against Fiorentina, and we have to speak about it now as well. He still has a long way to go. Last time it was that he wasn't getting close enough to players. This time, he got sent by a hot dog here. Just completely fooled. So he needs to do better. He's lunging into things, and he just needs to be a bit more calm and collected. So yeah, Zaniolo needs to definitely work on that. Roma here had an amazing chance to score. I don't know how Abraham missed from here, but this should have been a goal from Roma. And if Roma scored here, they would have probably gone and won the game, because the second half was all Roma. So, but they didn't. He missed. That's part of the game. So it was still 1-0 to Napoli at this point. And the game was dirty. The game from Roma's side was pretty dirty. A lot of unnecessary fouls like these ones. There was calls for a penalty here, whereas Meret, he just saved the shot, and Roma, Zaniolo just followed, like just him following through got injured, but it's not a foul. So yeah, the Roma bench was protesting, but honestly, I don't know what they expected out of that. Koulibaly had an amazing game. This is one of his many tackles, and he's just unreal player. But then we get to the Roma goal, which we already discussed, and how we changed formation, and it just really screwed us over. And I won't go back into that, guys. So let me see some of the comments, guys, of what you guys have to say. So Payman Dadgar saying, Dom, can you pull up a poll about Spalletti? I want him out. That's going to be controversial. Yeah, let me put a poll. Let me put a poll here. Should we? Thing is, I'm not gonna poll should we keep Spalletti, because it's a useless poll. It really is. Like, of course we're gonna keep Spalletti. Of course we are. I don't think we're gonna change managers again. So let me rephrase this, and let me say, how do you rate Spalletti's season? So how do you rate Spalletti's season? And guys, I'm talking about season, so not today's game, but I'll give a few options. 7, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, no. Let me go 5, 6, 7, 8, because I don't think anyone will pick 9 out of 10 for Spalletti after today. So let's go with that. How do you rate Spalletti's season from 5 to 8? Let me know in the poll, guys. So the poll is right there should be on your screens. Go smash your 5, 6, 7, 8, and then smash the like button, because you should always be doing that at all times, guys. You should be doing that. But let's see if Spalletti actually has a press conference, if he's done that already or not. Might be a little early for the press conference. Oh no, he's live in the press conference. So they ask him about Lobotka leaving injured, and he says, when he left, the ball was getting moved around a lot less, and whoever came to replace him didn't have the same quality. Lobotka got this really big cramp, and he either has a broken muscle or something like that. But it's interesting how he says that whoever came on, which is in this case Zielinski, doesn't have the same quality as Lobotka. I mean, who would have thought at the start of the season someone would say something like that? And then about the last 5 games, obviously we've not had the best run of form, and he's saying we don't have to. Oh, sorry. They ask him about the remaining 5 games, and Spalletti says, "Yeah, we got to win them all. There's not, I'm not going to give you guys a percentage of, how much we're still in this or not. We just got to win 100% of the games." Sorry. And then they ask him about the subs that he made, and he says, "The subs that we made were done to have more ball possession. Roma is a team that is really physical. In the end, they basically mirrored our formation and made it a 1v1 type of game, and we weren't able to protect the ball and pass it around as well. We had to interpret the Roma goal a lot better. We had to adapt to that situation, but we didn't." They ask him about whether this team is too fragile, and he says, the football is going in the direction that it's becoming man against man. It's very physical, and we're not able to play that style of football very well. We're not able to manage games when it goes to that sort of style of football, and we're paying the consequences. And that's something that other teams have done in the past. Fiorentina also did that quite a bit, and both games we didn't win. So yeah, it's something that we got to look at. I think as individuals we're too unmotivated, we're too weak, and it's difficult when you're like that. You might have a lot of quality, but if the other team has just more anger, has more desire, then they're going to win the ball. And so you can have the quality, but if you don't have the ball, how are you going to express it? They ask him about Osimhen getting subbed out, and he's saying Osimhen knows how to do some things, but in that moment of the game was moving in a certain way where I needed Dries Mertens on the field because he could help us move the ball around a bit better to keep the team more compact. And then he gets a little defensive. He's saying, "Oh, now you're asking why I took Osimhen off, but other times you guys want Mertens to play." I think Spalletti, is just trying to defend himself. I think we all want Mertens and Osimhen on the field. Anyways, Spalletti continues saying, "We lost." The fact that he even says we lost, we didn't lose. We drew the game, but he internally is processing this as a loss. So he says we lost, even though we drew. We lost because we weren't able to hold on to the ball. We lost the ball too many times. We are a team that needs to play beautiful football, and when that's not possible, then we struggle. De Laurentiis is always upset about the substitutions because I do them too early or too late, or I substitute people that shouldn't have been substituted. But the thing is that everybody sees substitutions in their own way. So it's interesting. He actually is saying that De Laurentiis is complaining to him about it, which is crazy. De Laurentiis, obviously, you can see there that there's a bit of a disagreement. So I would love to know what De Laurentiis thinks about our substitutions. If only he... Well, actually, it would be very bad if he goes and says something against Spalletti. So I'm actually very thankful that he hasn't done that, because otherwise there'd be a huge scandal right now about De Laurentiis and Spalletti, and it's just not what we need at the moment. We don't need that kind of conflict and drama. But I would love to know, off the record, what De Laurentiis thinks about all of this. So I think majority of you guys are saying Spalletti season is a 6 out of 10. Which, yeah, I mean, between 6 and 7. So let's say it's a 6.5, which I think is fair. Because he started off really well. He handled some really difficult situations, AFCON, injuries, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, lost out to Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia. Not even quarterfinals, like round of 16, the first round at home. Embarrassing result. Lost out there. Knocked out of the Europa League round of 16. Yes, in a title fight, but were we ever really in this title fight? I mean, our title charge, it went from August to November, and then November onwards, November to February, right? We dipped, and the only reason why we were still in the conversation was because of what we did in the previous months. And then March, April, we're like, oh, okay, we're getting back there. But that's just because Inter and Milan are doing badly. Like, they're not keeping up with maybe what they should be doing. So yeah, and we do have a problem, guys. We have some really real problems because we've not been able to beat Roma. We lost 4 points against Roma this season. We lost points against Atalanta. We lost the first game. Obviously, we won the second one, but we lost points against Fiorentina. We lost points against Atalanta. We lost points against Roma. We lost points against Milan. We lost points against Inter. The only team that we beat back and forth was Juventus out of the top 8 or whatever. That's the only team we beat. And that's a Juventus pre-Zakaria, pre-Vlahovic. It's not the Juventus of right now. The first game that we played against Juventus, that was the Juventus of initial season Juventus that were 18th. It's not the Juventus of 2022. And then when we did play them in 2022, that was before they bought all the players. It was before the end of the transfer market. So it's a very different team now. And I'm sure that if we were to play Juventus now, today, I'm not sure we would win again. We might, but I wouldn't be so sure about it like I was before. So, we really got to look at that and say we screwed up against the top teams. Osimhen hasn't scored a goal against the top teams. This is his second season now, and against the top 8 teams, he scored 1 goal against Atalanta. And when he scored that goal last season, it was the goal, the fourth goal of the lot. It wasn't the 1-0 goal. It was a 3 or 4-0 goal. So it's not a decisive goal. And at the time, at the start of the season, last year, Atalanta were not even in, they were in third gear. They weren't the Atalanta that started to really get the results in. So we've got a problem with Osimhen there against the big teams. We've got a problem with Spalletti and this Napoli team not being able to consistently beat our rivals. And we got a problem that we're not ever really convincing with our performances. It's always been 1-0s, long ball to Osimhen, something like that, So, yeah, I mean, somehow we were still in this title fight, but, yeah. See some more comments. Vincenzo is saying, lost the big games at home, such as today, last week, and both Milan teams not good enough. Yeah, at home, that's a really good point. At home, it's huge the amount of games that we lost. We lost maybe 5-6 games at home, and then drew now against Roma. So we're not able to. You can't consider this a title-winning team. No title-winning team has ever had this kind of home form. We can't just rely on our away form, you know. And the reason why we win away and not at home is because away we have more chances to counterattack because the opposition has more of the ball because the opposition's playing at home. But we're just not able to break teams down when we're at home and they defend. And the amount of times that we've won at home due to penalties is insane. And obviously you could say, well, yeah, I mean, penalties are there for a reason and every team has a penalty, but realistically speaking, how many of those penalties were going to end up as goals? Could you 100% say that that would have been a goal if the defender didn't make a mistake? You know, even today's Lozano, like, was he going to score? We don't know. It could have so easily not been a penalty if the defender didn't touch Lozano and then, you know, the ball would have gone out or whatever and it would have been 0-0. And then we're looking at a defeat, right? So we've been saved by a few penalties this year, for sure. So, yeah, there's a lot to think about. But, you know, we're going to be in the Champions League, that's for sure. And that money is going to be really useful and needs to be invested properly. It needs to be really, really invested properly. Yeah, Blue Line is saying the problem today is that we didn't score second and third goal. This has happened many times this season. This should be worked on for next season. Yeah, but we weren't even wasteful. It's not like, when could we have scored a second goal? That one time that Insigne crossed it to Osimhen and the ball was like a meter away from Osimhen? Come on, that's not close. There's so many things that opportunity, you know, that makes you get up from your seat is actually so far away from being a goal. It's not even like, I don't even consider that. Because even if you do get the ball to Osimhen, right? Even if you do get that 1 meter closer to Osimhen's still got to convert that. He's got to get the right touch on it. It's not just about hitting Osimhen. Like, Osimhen's got to put his body in a way to hit the ball towards goal. So he's got to get a shot on target. And then that shot has to beat the keeper, which is always difficult to do. So that chance is actually like 3 or 4 steps away from being a goal, you know? It's not like it got saved off the line. We didn't have something like that today. So we were so far away from scoring a second goal today. You know, it's incredible. Roma had so many more chances where really like they were just missing that last piece. You know, with like the Abraham header. That should have been a goal, because the cross was perfect. He got into the space, and then he just hit it wrong. But if he had hit it right, it would have probably gone in. So yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's disappointing, guys. I think I'm gonna end the chat. I'm gonna end the live here because, well, not really in the mood. But we do have Empoli next week. So yeah, I mean, hopefully now we can just win the next 5 games. No pressure on winning the title. Our players can go back to, you know, just doing what they were doing before all this title talk started happening and obviously affected our performance. Hopefully, and actually, hopefully they don't, they don't get too depressed from this. And actually, you know, the nightmare scenario would be if we lose Champions League football, right? That would be horrible if we lose like the next 5 games, right? I trust that they won't do that. So yeah, that's the next game, guys. Empoli. I'm not even gonna bother talking about Inter and Milan today because I think we're so out of it now. But yeah, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. There's no point in even. There's no point, guys. Even talking about Inter and Milan. You know, I mean, obviously, like mathematically speaking, there's still a chance, but nah, like it's done. It's done. Lord Foxtrot saying not good enough to be champions Napoli, even in pretty poor Serie A this year. Yeah, it's a poor Serie A. It really is. Inter are so far behind the Inter of last season. It's crazy. Spalletti has really shocked me. He was supposed to be a great manager, and he is, but squad management in game is terrible. I mean, Osimhen off, what is he thinking, says Danny Baum. Yeah, that's been his big downfall. That's been his big downfall this season. Just the way that he manages his subs. Yeah. You know, we all thought that maybe the biggest issue with Spalletti would be his changing room management. You know, he's had problems with Icardi, he's had problems with Totti, and so we all thought that maybe he would fall out with some players. Actually, that's not been the case. But what he has proved is that he can't read the games very well, which is an issue. But yeah, let's hope the transfer market this summer is going to give us some crazy talents, you know. So yeah. But guys, that's about it. I'm drained of all energy. So yeah, you know, as always, guys, have a good week. Try to recover from this as best you can, and we'll be back next week. But till then, guys, as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.